Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you this morning? It's Thursday. I can't believe it. The week's just flying by. My name's Linda. I'm a trauma recovery coach and for complex PTSD, and I'm also working through this stuff myself and have been prior to us ever having language for what's going on, both primarily neurologically in our brain. So if you're here today, remember to say good day, and if you're here for the replay, remember to do a hashtag replay. I love to catch up with you all, and thank you all for being here. This morning I want to share with you some, they're personal insights into my journey along the way, and how that when we continue and persist and are committed to a consistent way of being free of all the look, there's just so many facets to complex PTSD that it is a lifetime. It does give back to us all the time, but we can also aim to be in remission. My goal, my aim is to be in remission at some point in time. Now, last Thursday and Friday, so a week ago, I felt really good inside, outside, all over, and both nights I went to bed, I went to sleep happy. I was really excited because I'd spent a considerable amount of time putting together our trauma-informed movement class. There's a lot that goes in behind the scenes to get everything together electronically. So it takes a lot of focused concentration. And I felt really good that I'd been able to spend 2 whole days getting everything together, pulling things together, and they were coming together. So think about our prefrontal cortex needs to be engaged for order. So mine was obviously engaged because there was a lot of order happening in my day. And then I got the shock of my life when I woke up Saturday morning and I just couldn't get out of bed. I'm lying there and I'm going, what's going on? Why can't I move? Why? I've got a great day to look forward to. I had breakfast planned with a beautiful bunch of women, and then after lunch, more time planned with another different group of women, and I'm just like, why can I not move? And as I lay there, and it's like you're doing that whole scan right throughout your body, trying to figure out what's going on. And as I lay there, my heart broke for me from the perspective that I went, oh my goodness, I'm moving ahead. I've had 2 days being able to be really effective and functional, and yet here goes my brain. The depression's been triggered somehow. And even last night I sat and listened to professionals talk about depression and the neuroscience of it, and the bottom line is they still haven't nailed the neuroscience of it. They've nailed bits and pieces, which is really helpful, but nothing that I've been able to grab hold of so far that says, like they did for anxiety. When I learned about the neuroscience of anxiety, I was able to put so many pieces together that when I went out and it was happening, I now have a whole system in place where I don't have to go down the road of having anxiety attacks that cause me to have mini epileptic-like seizures. So, but with the depression, I'm still working on the best way to go about it in order to get back on my feet. So on Saturday, once I realised that if I can't move my body, and as you can see, I'm somebody who's pretty determined. I show up every day consistently. I love life, and I love what I do, and I love my family. And yet here I was, I couldn't get my whole body-brain function to move, and I knew that I had no choice. I had to sleep. So after I'd had a sleep, I went, right, what's next? What do I do? So actually, I'll pull up the infographic to keep me on track, otherwise we might be here all morning. So when your brain goes offline like this, I've learned, after I read Pete Walker's book, From Surviving to Thriving, I began to grasp the concept of when our brain goes offline. And the more I've listened to about it as well, so my ear's just about, ear bit's about to fall off. The more I've listened to as well is that there's something that gets triggered in the deep brain, okay, the deepest parts of our brain, and at this point in time, there is nothing we can do about it. There's no medication when the trigger happens. There's no set way of dealing with it. So it's like having a virus in your computer, and according to how bad that virus is how much we can do when we're triggered, okay? So on Saturday, I knew that because whatever triggered, the virus in my brain to take it offline, the amount that had gone offline and wasn't usable was significant enough that I had to not go to the morning coffee meet up, and I had to go to sleep because I know my body and brain that well because I've been observant for so long now. So what do we do? Sorry. So, yeah, I wrote, so I'm here but not functioning fully. So we can go through and go, right, how much can I function at this time? So there are different stages. And on Saturday, after I'd had a sleep, I went, right, I'm going to gym. But when I got down to gym, the personal trainer was there, and we ended up talking about the neurology, the neuroscience, etc., about the brain. And I mean all the easier stuff, not, in depth, but things that are practical. But as we did, I realised that, how you get that sense of the fog around you and a foggy brain. I knew that it was there, so I had to sit down and I had to take the time to just talk and connect because I knew that there was no use getting on the bike at this point in time. It just wasn't going to happen. So when the brain fog is there, when it's around you, just take the time to breathe and sit and talk with somebody. And I found the more I was able to focus on my breathing in that situation, the easier it became. But I still wasn't fully back online because I went off to my girlfriend's. And I was there for about an hour before I realised I hadn't even eaten today. So it's like, it's still in that offline stage. There's still no immediate effect. So I'm going with at the moment that the prefrontal cortex is still offline when we're in that stage, and we can't put things in an order. We can't even think about our day-to-day life in an order. And I just went, this is amazing. I've come so far, and yet the brain still goes offline. And I still am learning different ways to deal with it when it does go offline. I did have to go, right, I'm pushing myself to go to gym. Gym may not be your thing, but whatever it is that you've got to push yourself to do that. But remember, you can't do it until some of the brain comes back online. We really can't. There are different times. I've found there are different times when I can push forward, and there are times when I just know I can't. All right? So when we've got to ask ourselves the question, do I sleep or not sleep? What's happening here? I've learned to move my body around and see how much I've got. Like, am I going to be able to have any kind of focus or not? And when the depression comes, it always comes with making me feel like I have to sleep. Sometimes I definitely do, and I don't fight it because I just know the brain's gone too far. Use the HALT acronym, hungry, angry, lonely or tired, and every single time mine is tired. So I do tend to push my brain too far when it's not offline. I'm like, let's go, let's get in, let's get stuck in and do as much work as I can. And also one of the things I'm trying to work out how to work out, and it's not simple, is to put the end of my day into an order that I'm happy with, but I keep avoiding it because I can't work it out in my head. I've got to sit down and work it out on paper so that I do have the discipline to go to bed on time. And if there's one thing I've learnt about me is I've got to work it out, because going to sleep on time, actually my son told me this, every hour that you get sleep before midnight, it's like having 2 hours worth of sleep. So it's best to get as much in before midnight as we can. And also, when we've got sleep, sometimes we need to ask ourselves the questions, do I need to time how much I sleep? So on Saturday morning I just have to sleep. There's no time involved. The brain needs what the brain needs, and I just have to honour that process. And when I got up, I started doing what I could do, all right? I actually went to the shops after my girlfriend's house and did a bit of grocery shopping, but after that, I was just exhausted. There was nothing else that was going to happen. Always ask what I need to do and what can I do, and move towards what you can do. If you've got family around you, and even the kids, get them involved. We need to be able to talk to our kids about what's happening, and I for one certainly found that when I'm able to put language around what's happening for me and say what I need. My kids are adults now, but I did this when they were younger. So when they were teenagers, one time they said to me, "Mum, why are you always cranky at us at night?" And I went, "I'm not cranky at you." And I didn't even realise that at night time I would get cranky because I'm tired. So that communication let them know that it wasn't about them, it was just simply that I was exhausted. And then they'd say, "Mum, have dinner, go to bed." Because this is what happens, our memory's not engaged either. So we can be so focused on just getting that one thing done that we forget that we should just really eat and go to bed. And it is hard, it's challenging, because people don't understand that when your brain's like this, it's not about me having the wherewithal to be positive, to go ahead. It's simply managing where my brain's at this point in time. I find when I'm awake but not alert, I do something that is minimal attention span. So it can be simple things like play a computer game that has short attention span things. So not a big massive game, 3D game, just something like Candy Crush. And I can't remember what the other one is. Anyhow, there's heaps out there that you can do that once you crash and burn, it finishes. And that gives you time. I find it gives me time to assess where my body and brain's at, can I move? And I also, yesterday I sat there and I went, right, 3 o'clock, I'm getting up and moving. And then I'd look, and then an hour had passed, like in the blink of an eye. I watch YouTube videos which make me laugh, and that helps get the oxygen happening as well. And I find that is a big, big help. But it's still sometimes when the brain goes offline, it just takes time for whatever's happening inside there to be processed, okay? So yeah, my current mode is to use time to check where I'm up to keep the focus happening in the now. It's like a mindfulness technique. It's not to give myself a hard time. It's to allow my brain time to process and to see where I'm at. And in the future, I'll be able to say, right, this is how much time this trigger is going to take for me to be able to move and do stuff. And once I could move my body, even though I was awake, it still took time for me to be able to move, get my brain to allow my body to move, get up and get going. And I do. The minute I can, I do. But don't sit and hide. I've sat and avoided talking about this for so long. Not because of being ashamed, but because there's no language and people don't talk about it because it's so hard to explain that no matter what I want to do, if my brain goes offline, I'm cactus. But I am going to continue to find for myself, for us, different ways around it so that we can work with the trigger and get our brain back online more quickly. Okay, thanks for listening and sharing this morning. If you have any questions or comments, please feel welcome to leave them. And honestly, thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate you a lot. Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.